to fruition, right? COVID-19 happened, and I was going to do 19 Chronicles as one collection of poetry. And the year just got so big. And I mean, I feel like it's still so big. But I'm a part of a group, and in this group, it's like a, I don't even know what it was called, like a private club, like a men's social club, like a lot of fairly powerful people in Atlanta, men in Atlanta, are a part of this group. And one of my really good friends invited me to be a part of it. And he said, oh, by the way, you'd be the only black guy. I said, okay, well, this is weird. And then, like, to go, I had to sign an NDA. You know, there's no phones allowed at the meetings, because a lot of the people in the, I mean, this is, I'll give you a late member's name because he passed, but Asa Candler was a member of the club. And, well, he was Asa the, I think, fourth. But Asa Candler, that's the family that owns Coca-Cola. So, I mean, it's kind of like a billion millionaires boys club. And when I first was invited, one of the guys I met through my friend who invited me. And I remember meeting this guy at the Buckhead Club, and we were talking about business. And he's like, yeah, we're gonna do business here. But he said, I got one rule only. And we said, what's that? Me and my old business partner. He said, I don't do business with women. He said, I just can't do it. And so me and my partner looked at each other and we were like, that's interesting, because he and I had figured out that women are a major fuel when it comes to like doing anything, like getting anything done. If you got a woman in the mix, it just seems to help because they're smarter than us, they're so talented. So we were kind of like a little bit baffled by it. But then I ended up going to attend the meeting, and you know, I'm like, are they going to be wearing the cloaks with the second rings? I don't know what to expect. And you know, being in the South, in Georgia, the whole black-white thing, that's what we are raised in. We've had very little diversity. When I was growing up in College Park in Clayton County, you were either black or white. There really wasn't much diversity. It didn't look like the world, it just looked like the Deep South. And one of the guys, founding member of the club, I wasn't aware of this, but my friend who was the one who invited me said, hey, you sure you want to invite John? I mean, this guy could be a thug. Oh my gosh. And so my friend came back and told me this. And I was like, what? I mean, is that what it gets for me? You know, that's not who I am. But I said, well, I'll tell you what though, I'm not interested. You guys, you know, the club thing's cool. Do your thing. And he was like, no, man, no. You can't, no. That's one bad apple. So months go by, a couple months go by. And he comes back to me and he says, the founding member of this club who said that has been kicked out. That's how important it is that we embrace other peoples within our organization, that we all took a vote and he's no longer part of the club. We want to invite you to come back and just take a look again, enjoy yourself again, and hopefully you'll change your mind. And I did, and I ended up joining the club. And one of the members of the club is a beautiful, beautiful person. He's in his mid-60s, white guy. But his father was, a long time ago, the mayor, or not his father, his grandfather, was the mayor of Atlanta during pre-integration. And so, because his father, like on one of his first days in office, he integrated one of the parks. So his father was basically a pro-integration person. And because of that, they took backlash. And this guy, when he was a kid, the Ku Klux Klan burned a cross in his yard because his father was starting a reputation for being cool with immigration. And he didn't speak for a number of years after this cross burning in his yard. And his godfather was C.T. Vivian, one of the civil rights leaders that we lost in 2020. He actually died on the same day as John Lewis. But they were close. But the reason why I shared that is to bring it to the point that I'm going to share right now. He came to me in his 60s and he said he's looking at the protests happening in Atlanta, all over the country. But Atlanta has a history of, we don't really burn down our city, because part of our history is after General Sherman burned down the city, it was rebuilt. So like part of our history is the resurgence. So there was this agreement made a long time ago between black folks and white folks. Hey, we're gonna live together. And really the agreement was kind of like, y'all still gonna stay down here and y'all gonna, act right. That was the whole thing. It's like, we'll let you guys, get some economic growth, happening in your own little bubble. But in return, let's just go ahead and agree that we're never gonna burn the city down again. And so when they started doing Black Lives Matter protests for George Floyd in Atlanta, and we started seeing the mob, like looting and people throwing bricks and everything through the windows. There was even a group that was putting pallets of bricks out where the protesters would be to try to get people to start, throwing bricks and stuff. And he was kind of investigating this. But he said, John, you're one of my black friends, but I know that you always are genuine. Tell me why you're angry. Well, tell me help me to understand what's going on. And he invited me out to his home. And because of his family, he's got this, in the most prestigious area of Atlanta, he's got like 30 acres where, like inside the perimeter, it doesn't happen too much. But we go out in this land and he invited some more guys, good guys. And we sat down and we talked about it. And nobody held any punches, but it wasn't an argument. Like we just sat down and we just shared why people feel certain ways, and he didn't understand a lot of it. And we, rephrased it and everything. But that conversation showed me the importance of perspective, of not taking someone else for granted in that, they get it. Because a lot of my black friends, when I told them about this, they said, why would you even be a part of this? They didn't want you there from the beginning. Okay. And said, well, why would you even answer the question of why are you mad? They know why we're mad. And I said, well, I could tell he was being genuine. Oh man, they just laughing at you behind your back. But I said, you know what? I'm going to share a poem with the group, and I'm going to remain genuine. And that really led to me broadening the book, because perspective became so important. One of the ways I helped them relate to, so let me flash forward to after this conversation, every month we have a presenter. So because of everything, they said, hey, stop the schedule. We want John, he's our only black guy. We want John to come up and share something with us that emerged from this conversation. So I go in front of this huge group. Well, actually, it's not huge. There's only about 54 of us. But this was a night where, because I was doing this, we opened up the policy. So people were able to invite some more people. David Beckham wasn't even there. I'm like, what? Wow. So I was like, up there on the spot. We have a catering company for the group, black people. So they're serving. And I'm up here with the suit on, tie, And I always show them love, right? I'm like like them, like I go up, hey man, this was good, like my sister, she's really good cook too, you guys should collaborate. So they knew that, I was there for them. But at the same time, they probably didn't expect me to be vulnerable and to truly share perspective. And so I got up there and I read this particular poem, but the poem kind of was tied to a story of me proving that perspective shouldn't be taken for granted. And it goes back to when I was working downtown for the nonprofit. What we did was we taught anger management to kids who were assigned to take this course because the juvenile court judge said, well, you can go to jail, juvenile jail, or you can take this anger management class and hopefully it'll help. So we had anger management kids from a lot of the toughest neighborhoods in Atlanta. And because I was a writer, the lady who was my mentor, who owned the nonprofit, she assigned me the task of writing the summaries or bios for kids in foster care. So these kids, I would be sitting there crying because I would have to take their whole file and turn it into a one, bio or one summary. And I mean, the stuff that they would be going through, I'm going through reading these files and it just was consistently heartbreaking. And I remember a group of kids, I think they were all about 14, 15, they would come up there like after school and stuff. We were sitting around talking one day and we kind of just hanging out, kicking it, and something serious came up. I don't remember what it was because this was years ago. But I said, I feel you. And when I said that, the whole group of kids, man, you a sucker. You a liar. You don't know about what I feel. You don't feel me. And it hurt me. I was like, oh. But they were right. I don't know what it feels like to be abandoned by my parents and, found in some abandoned house and feeding your younger siblings, you're 8 years old. Like, I have no clue. And for me to say, you know what, I get it, I feel you, it was an insult to them. And I share that because when we as people think that, because these two look alike, or because these two look alike, or because these two grew up in the same area, they understand each other. It doesn't work like that. Just because I'm black doesn't mean I know everything about every black person. Just because you're white doesn't mean you know everything about every white person. It doesn't work like that. We can't take perspective for granted. We can't just assume that just because we see the outer context of somebody the way I did Mr. Jeff at Clayton State, we can't assume that we understand them, that they understand us, or that people who are just like them understand each other. And so, because he asked me, why are you, and he didn't say you, but he's basically saying, why are black people so angry right now in a city where we don't do that kind of stuff? We don't burn down the city. We don't loot, we don't riot. You got to tell me what's going on. How did it get to this point? And so I ended up writing a poem called These Questions. And that poem is the poem that I also recited when we had the large gathering and I was the presenter. Why are you so mad? Why are you so angry? Black people kill each other all the time. Why is it appalling to see one more die? Why are you disturbed? Why do you protest? Why is there civil unrest? This is not America at her best. We freed you. We let you vote. For you, we amended our beloved Constitution. We used elegant legislation to implement a solution. We fought a civil war to release you from slavery. And those who fought to keep you in chains, we celebrate for their valiance and bravery. Why do you want to see their monuments fall? instead of gallantly standing tall over you all? Do you really believe racism is systemic, or is that just your sad excuse, your hoax, or your gimmick? Don't take this the wrong way. Don't take these words as weapons. I genuinely wish to understand. Can you answer for me these questions? Why am I so angry? Why am I so mad? This pain is deeper than you know, but you tell me it's not that bad. Yes, it's true that America is the greatest country on this earth, but she was formed in the inequality that she's carried since her birth. Being born brown automatically comes with a unique set of challenges, whether or not you agree. And if you don't, you're either blinded by denial, privilege, or guilt. Either way, you cannot see. What are the inherent obstacles levied against one simply because they were born white? What terrible force has ever perpetrated your plight? I'm not trying to drive a wedge between us or reverse the progress of race relations. I'm trying to help you understand why we express these great frustrations, these burning sensations that we never asked for or deserved, the oppression that we have endured, you have only had to observe. You honestly can't see the parallel between the slave catchers and racist police who hunted and harassed us through the fields and forests, now the same thing in the streets? For 400 years, you told us to love, fear, and depend on our white masters. And you conditioned us to hate each other. And you wonder why so many of our households have fatherless children or single mothers. For 400 years, our men were emasculated and prevented from protecting their wives, many of whom were raped and had their babies torn from their arms with tears in their eyes. We were pitted against each other from the big house to the field, from those with black skin against the fairer skin. These are scars we're still trying to heal. For 400 years this went on and was preceded by sharecropping and Jim Crow. And even after desegregation and northern migration, we were confined to the harsh conditions of the ghetto. Yes, some of us have matriculated into the highest rungs of society, but as a whole, we still feel the residues of oppression, suppression, and anxiety. With every generation, our fortunes have gotten incrementally better. But the struggle for equality is nowhere near complete. Racism is holding on for dear life, but has not yet suffered ultimate defeat. Instead of being so brazen and blatant for survival, it has had to become more discreet. That's why Make America Great Again sounds to many of us like the revival of hate speak, because there has not been a time in the history of this great nation where the blacks' burden has been completely natural. We make up maybe 13% of the free population with over 15% of the incarcerated. These numbers are real and factual. We are disproportionately affected by just about everything from disease and healthcare to poverty and education to gentrification and even the coronavirus. So I appreciate the voices that have refused to remain in silence. There have always been those of you that have stood with us against injustice, who battled alongside us through this country's struggles, from abolition and wars to marches and freedom rides on buses, who have abided by the binding of the love coursing through their veins, who know that we are all in this together. When we bleed the same. That there is oxygen in our lungs and the same salt and sweat in our tears, that there are enemies foreign and domestic that wish to see us realize our fears. And every time they attack, we rush to each other's aid. We're all dealing with the sins and triumphs of our fathers and sleeping in the bed they made. I appreciate the sentiment of those who genuinely wish to understand. And I'm humbled when I come across one willing to extend a helping hand. This problem is more complex than trigonometry, but I've tried to explain the best I can. There's no respectable reason why we should not be united across this land. So let us, American exceptionalists, be the example of the power of the collective through the edification of our brotherhood and the sharing of our perspective. Because until we look beneath the surface, all we see is each other's reflections. And I hope that maybe a little I've been able to answer for you these questions.
Wow. Being able to put these kinds of issues into poetry like that genuinely blows